I was also amazed by how pissed off the Lightning players were every time they were getting called for tripping penalties. There were obvious tripping penalties,
The
and they were
Hagel one was hilarious.
they were flipping out on the refs, and you'd watch the replay, and you're like, "What exactly are they complaining about here?" Those were like,
Hagel went nuts, and yet he literally put his stick in Marchand's skates, tripped him.
yes.
It was so textbook obvious.
Welcome to another edition of the Pucks with Haggs podcast. As always, I'm your host, Joe Haggerty. You can find my work at joehaggerty.substack.com. Join up for a premium membership, and you'll get all of my NHL and Bruins writing sent straight to your inbox. With me, as always, friend and colleague Mick Colageo. Mick, tell everybody where they can find your stuff.
Every Sunday on BostonHockeyNow.com, I do a column to compliment Jimmy Murphy's work there on that site. Hags alumnus. And I do my blog on game nights. I blog live from the Bruins home games at rinkwrapmc.com. Link to it on X, Twitter, and Facebook. And I also appear in the seasonal issues of the Hockey News.
There you go. And I should mention, I also write columns for the Boston Sports Journal. You can actually check out something I wrote today up there. I talked to Patrice Bergeron for a good half hour yesterday, just about Brad Marchand, his 1,000th game. And also, I'm going to be writing about it this weekend, some of the, just how retirement is going for Bergie and what some of his thoughts are on it settling in now that it's been a while. So look forward to that, writing that. I hope you look forward to reading that. Let's also thank our sponsors. Factor Meals, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit. Fresh, never frozen meals, ready in 2 minutes. You just pop them in the micro. Chef-made, dietitian approved, delicious meals, very good. And also FanDuel Sportsbook. The Super Bowl is over. All the prop bets are over. It was a good game. Patrick Mahomes did the Brady thing and ended up coming back and finding a way to win at the end. But there are still all kinds of things you can bet on at FanDuel Sportsbook, wager on. The NBA and the NHL are in full swing. So what you need to do is join FanDuel Sportsbook, download the app. It's super easy to use. If you join today, you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. That's $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins at FanDuel Sportsbook. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/Boston, America's #1 sportsbook and the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS network, FanDuel Sportsbook. So thank you very much to them. All right, Mick. Bruins lose 3-2 in a shootout to Tampa Bay. Obviously a much better game than we saw the game prior against Washington and a couple games before that against Calgary. It was a nice bounce back effort where I thought they deserved to win and played well enough to win. Having lost 3-2, Marchand plays in his 1,000th game, gets a long ovation during a video montage in the first period, kind of announcing and commemorating his milestone. He looked really emotional during the national anthem, kind of looking around in the stands, taking it all in and sort of embracing and enjoying the moment. And I think that's something that all of us as we get older do more, and I think he's a 35-year-old guy that's been around for a while, knows he's not going to play forever. And so you start to sort of smell the roses and look around a little bit and savor those great moments or those things that happen there. I would imagine there was also a feeling of kind of looking around and realizing there's no David Krejci, no Zdeno Chara, no Patrice Bergeron. A lot of his compatriots and the guys that he played with for a long time are gone, and he's now the guy sort of leading the way and hitting the milestones and getting all the career sort of things that you get when you've played more games than you're going to play in the future. Just your thoughts on the night, the game, Brad Marchand's accomplishment, just all that stuff. What'd you take out of last night's game?
They looked engaged. They looked like they wanted to play for Marchand.
Yep.
I think they obviously didn't want to disappoint their captain. So the intensity was back. It's obviously a tough slog at this time of the season. They're manufacturing energy, whereas other teams come into the building, naturally generating it from their desperation, either
Yep.
as players or as teams. And the Bruins had something to play for last night. And it was nice to see the response. I always get really disappointed whenever, I mean, the Lightning have been their daddy for so long
Yeah.
that, I mean, you go back to 11 for the last time the Bruins were their daddy. And that was by the skin of Krejci's to Horton's teeth.
Yep.
So yeah, it's great to see Marchand. He credits Bergeron for helping him mature as a person, and all of this talk they throw around and flower bouquets of flowers they toss back and forth. It's all true because Marchand, even amidst the disappointment of the flat performance Saturday against the Capitals, our pal Kevin DuPont threw Marshy a question to switch gears about approaching this game. And his response was excellent.
Yep.
He there's the context of the moment of what just happened on the ice, and there's the context of the season, and there's a context of your career. And he just seems so present and able to engage. And I think that's really speaks to his ability as a captain and the right leader for this team, and the go-to guy, because he has those sensibilities.
And it would typically for Marchand, defiant in the way he kind of answered it too, which is him. There was the answers to the questions after that game about, are you worried or concerned? And he's like, I'm not concerned. We're fine. Like that was great leadership. I thought that was just, there's no panic here. We're
Yeah,
okay. It's a couple of bad losses. Like he's been through this before. He understands exactly what kind of a stretch that they're in, that it's going to be up and down. It's going to be kind of boom or bust, and it
right.
gets that. But then when they got to your question, the dupes question that you're talking about, I kind of loved his attitude of like, this was used to be a goal. And as I started to approach it, it wasn't really a goal anymore to hit 1,000 games because I knew I was going to get there barring an injury. Now it becomes playing in 13, 14, 1,500 games. Now it becomes playing in the Olympics in 2026. Now it becomes winning another Stanley Cup. Now it becomes, being present, but also having goals of things he wants to attain that are going to be much more difficult, but things that
As a dad, you can think of your kids and think of what he was saying about, I want my kids to see that.
yes,
I'm playing for that now.
yes. So all of that,
It was
I thought
awesome. It was
was,
awesome, and he's awesome. So
and that,
no, really, really, I'm totally on the Marchand bandwagon. Not that it took me a long time to get there. I've always loved him as a player, even when he was on the Black Aces during the 2010 playoffs in Philadelphia. I loved how he embraced his role on the team and
yep.
practiced with Timmy Thomas and all that was going on. You think to yourself hypothetically, man, what if they had put him in at that point? He
What
was
if they
ready.
found a way to put him in instead of Trent Winfield? Yeah, I've thought about that before,
The
for
secret to
sure.
my success. Hey, Whitfield, God bless him. He had a breakaway that would have ended the series, and
Yes.
didn't go in. And who knows if Marchand would have ever been in the same skates? But hey, they won the next year, so I guess that's all that matters.
Get your buckets with your first bet at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams, quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/Boston and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA.
And last night, is just as far as the game goes, I thought it was also just a great microcosm of who Brad Marchand is, showing up and having a great game in a milestone, big, stage type thing for him. That goal that JVR scored, that tied up the game, that was all Marchand. That was him finding a way to get through a couple of guys up by the high blue line, just not giving up, continuing to not give up on the play and try to make something out of it, attacking with speed and his edges and everything else. And then it turns into him getting that shot and JVR pops in the rebound. But that whole possession, that whole play, everything that happened in that sequence where they scored, that was number 63 making something happen out of nothing. I've seen that happen so many times with him when there's defenders all around him. Somehow he gets out of it with the puck, and it looks like he's going to lose it a couple of times, but he finds a way to get it back in and make something happen.
The zone entry seemed like a 5% chance.
Yeah. And
that was unbelievable from the get-go.
And he handcuffs an all-world goalie with the shot, and that turns into JVR scoring on the rebound. But that play and that sequence was Brad Marchand, vintage Marchand at his best.
Yeah.
And it was awesome to see that in a game that meant so much to him and where it was about him, frankly, for a lot of it.
Yeah. I mean, being old enough to be some of these hockey players' grandfather, I tend now to have morphed in my life to a point where I'm more happy for them than I am for myself when they win. I'm thinking more like, I'm happy for him after double labrum in his mid-30s to go through a whole season where he doesn't feel quite right, and then come back and achieve who he is at the soul of his game as a hockey player. I'm happy for him, to see that. I'm happy for the team that it happened. So good for Marchand, good for the Bruins. Hey, good tie last night. It's a T in my standings.
Yeah, no, that was a good game, playoff style game against a really quality opponent. You could tell both sides really wanted it bad. I mean, I thought Kucherov was going to go cuckoo in the third period. He was really getting frustrated, slamming his sticks on the boards, breaking them. He was.
He did that last time they played in Boston. It was hilarious, and it was because of Marchand.
Yes,
drove him crazy.
But and then Cooper mentioned this after the game that he always knows whenever the Lightning and Bruins play each other, it's going to be a really fun game to coach, and it's going to be high intensity, and they want to beat each other, and they really get up for those games. So
yeah,
regardless of whether Marchand's it was his 1,000th game or not, I think they would have come out with a good effort against that team, and it also it did make me think last night when I was watching that game. Is this a potential first-round playoff match? It's something we're going to see when the Bruins are trying to get out of the Atlantic Division bracket, and I think there's a very realistic chance it could happen. And to your point about them being the Bruins' daddies in recent playoff history, it's absolutely right. But let's face it, this is also not the same Tampa Bay Lightning team that won back-to-back cups.
And now without Sergachev.
No, and they've still got some of the guys, obviously, but Hedman's a little older now. Stamkos is a little older now. Kucherov is actually obviously at the top of his game. Braden Point's still an incredibly strong player. Vasilevsky.
Sorelli was good last night.
36 saves. Vasilevsky stole that game as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So they're a worthy opponent, but I think they're at a point now where that's also a beatable opponent for the Bruins if they saw.
Well, let's watch the deadline. They're always proactive. I got them in the sweepstakes. I think that even if the cap doesn't look like it can be done for them, I can't see them standing pat. They never do. They're the team that goes out and gets the guy that I think the Bruins should get. And I think that's going to happen again now. I just don't know if it's Tanev or Hanifin, but I think it's going to happen.
Tampa Bay Lightning are going to get Noah Hanifin
or Tanev. I think somehow they're going to do something.
They might
get come away. They're going to come up with a significant get to replace Sergachev. It's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, and let's be honest. I think it was Dave Nonis was at the game last night. I think that's something worthy of noting. That the Calgary Flames had several people at that game last night, watching both the Lightning and the Bruins and scouting them, and they're obviously going to be part of the arms race with Calgary looking to trade off some pieces. So all that is going to be interesting. I mean, I don't think I've talked to you about them struggling in those two losses. Did you have much concern about the losses to Calgary and Washington and the way they looked coming out of the All-Star break? Did that set off any alarm bells or warning signs with you?
Well, two teams on the ice, and I've been quoting the crap out of Andrew Raycroft ever since he said this is a tough time of year for the Bruins because everybody's getting up for them.
Yeah.
And everybody
It
is
is.
either desperate to and everybody who plays either trying to win first place, trying to make the playoffs, or playing for their careers in the NHL.
Well,
And
people
Calgary
forget,
outworked them. Calgary
people
was
for-
just tough. They were tough.
people forget too, Mick, that like when they won the Cup in 2011, the Bruins, when they got all the way to the Cup Finals against Chicago in 2013, this is the time of the year where they started like wildly swinging back and forth between winning and losing games.
Yeah.
Remember, Claude called them Jekyll and Hyde in 2013
Yes.
going down the stretch
Yeah.
because they wouldn't show up at times and
Right.
then win games. But like they're in the same boat as those teams where they know they're going to be in the playoffs. You know,
Yeah.
at this point in the year, teams are looking at them to measure themselves against them. And it's hard for them to, as you said, manufacture urgency, manufacture whatever against, night after night. Some nights they're going to be able to do it. And other nights you're going to see them flat as a pancake against a team like the Capitals. It's going to happen.
Canned urgency can never stand up to the real thing. Yeah. So, I mean, organic farmed urgency is sustainable and grows. Anyway, yeah, I that's how I felt about Calgary. I just felt like, yeah, were they awful? It was flat, but disappointing in that regard. I felt bad for all the fans who probably trying to get tickets last summer and thought, oh, here's my big chance. They let everybody walk. I'll finally get to go to my first Bruins game. And who knows how many $100 they're out, and they show up and get a dud. And then the Capitals, I saw the Bruins starting to really try to get back in that game. And every time they did, I saw the pride on the Capitals bench. That's a banged up, rickety old geriatric group there that's just got holes all over the place and shadow of their championship selves from how many years ago is it now? 6. And staying together too long. And because they're hogtied to Ovechkin's chase of Wayne Gretzky. And the result of all of that is that they get in a game against the Bruins. They lucked their way into a situation they realized, started to believe, and they played with pride, and they got better as the game went. And when it was over, I went down the hallway to Visitor's End to find Scotty Allen, my old compadre from New Bedford area. He's coached in the minors for about 1,000 years and has been an assistant on the Capitals since Peter Laviolette was there.
Yeah.
And he was positively giddy. I mean, just to be happy for the guys in that room to have something good happen in their season. And for anybody coming into Boston and getting a W against the Bruins, that's how they felt about it. And, good for them. I mean, they deserve the win.
And the Bruins fans, I agree with you. I felt bad for the Bruins fans that forked over big money for that game against the Capitals, because I just thought, the Bruins had 4 shots on net in the first and second period and just did not show up in that game. For
Anthony Richard with the 5 minutes left in the first period, I think.
Yeah, for large portions of it. But they did get to see history, Mick. They did get to see Alex Ovechkin pass Wayne Gretzky in that game. You know that, right?
No, I don't.
Hey,
What did he do?
Empty net goal that he got at the end, he surpassed Wayne Gretzky for like the all-time NHL leader for empty net goals, Alex Ovechkin. So he did Wayne Gretzky in some form or fashion for a record, where Bruins fans at least got to see some history in that empty net. That historic.
The way it's going, that's the only way he's going to pass him.
That's right. It's true.
We do have Factor Meals to help us out. America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit when it does get busy, when it does get crazy, when we do need a quick meal. They fuel you up fast with flavorful and nutritious ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. Takes less than 2 minutes to cook them. They're fresh, never frozen, meals ready in 2 minutes, like I said. They have calorie-conscious options, going upscale with some of the things they're offering now, like surf and surf meal options, roasted garlic filet mignon, and shrimp and Cajun spiced shrimp and salmon, which is like right in my wheelhouse. This is the kind of stuff I'm all about. So it's got everything for everybody. There's 34 plus chef prepared, dietitian approved weekly options for meals. You can get snacks, you can get breakfast items. Like it's a great deal. So if you want to get Factor Meals, go to factormeals.com/Haggs50 and use the code Haggs50 to get 50% off of your first box. It's a great deal. I've tried it. It's fantastic. I recommend it to you. We love these ready to make meal kits, especially when we're on the go with our kids. So one more time, that's factormeals.com/Haggs50 to get 50% off your first box. You won't be sorry if you go to Factor Meals. It gets the Haggs thumbs up seal of approval.
There was a lot to sort of peel through from that game last night. I guess the other thing the major thing that stands out is the power play, which has been struggling lately. Went 0 for 6 in that game last night. And really, I think that's Vasilevsky being as dominant as he was. I mean, that save he made on Marchand all by himself in overtime right in front of the net was amazing. The power play is the other part of it too that factored into the win or loss in that game. They went 0 for 6. They had chances. And an aside, which I wrote about a little bit, that I was also amazed by how pissed off the Lightning players were every time they were getting called for tripping penalties. There were obvious tripping penalties.
The Hagel one was hilarious.
They were flipping out on the refs, and you'd watch the replay, and you're like, "What exactly are they complaining about here?"
Hagel went nuts, and yet he literally put his stick in Marchand's skates, tripped him. It was so textbook obvious.
And Cernak too. It was a sweep check where his stick got in Pastrnak.
Yeah, that was more like Larry Bird doing an up fake and then jumping into the guy and going to the line.
He still got his stick in his skate.
Pasta. He did what anybody would do.
Yeah.
The sweep check was there. He made sure he went over his stick and
stepped on the stick and wiped out. You know,
the defender's culpable in that case. If you make that play as a D-man and you don't get the puck first, then I'm sorry if the skater finds your stick, however intentional, as long as he doesn't dive when he does it, then you go into the box. That's the price of making that play, potential. So,
but the Bruins 0 for 6 on the power play and struggling as of late, and the penalty kill's been struggling as of late as well. The special teams struggles in both directions, but more so the power play we're talking about after the Tampa Bay game. Any concern there? Anything that you think?
Yeah, I do have concern there. I just find that they're trying to be too neat, too technical, too pretty, and going for perfection. And when the perfect play, the perfect setup, those are going to come, and there's going to be stretches in which they don't. And when they're not, you have to have a B game. And the B game on the power play to me is bodies to the net, crash and burn, make some noise, do some things that upset the PK, and have some game that is something more than just trying harder and harder to find that perfect formula to make that play that you drew up in the room. I mean, I think Marchand is the perfect player to improvise. I think McAvoy, even though he's not a great power play player, he is a really good on ice improviser.
Yeah.
So I want to see improvisation. I want to see less of the technical pursuit and a little more of the chaotic pursuit. You know, I mean, be more like Sugar Ray Leonard when he knew he was losing to Tommy Hearns on points, and come out there and just blitz him and see what happens. He was going down, and Hearns was going down, and Leonard won. He had the carpe diem to make that happen. That's why he was a great champion. As pissed off as I was about the Hagler fight.
What you're talking about is the way the Bruins power play was when Torrey Krug was running the point, where they would constantly change positions, be moving around, be unpredictable, do things in spots where the penalty kill was not expecting them to be. And it made them really tough to defend because you could have all of a sudden Torrey Krug on the half wall and somebody up running one of the points, and they were constantly moving around, changing positions. And it wasn't just necessarily centered around setting up Pastrnak for one-timers or running through Pastrnak at the faceoff dot. And it was like a lot different then. But I think
I see some of that now. I'd want to see more. Yeah. I guess what I'm getting as I probably would like to see more. See Geeky standing in front of the goalie.
Yeah.
See Freddie standing in front of the goalie. If it's Jake DeBrusk, then it's all about his stick. And if there's a body there boxing him out, then he doesn't contest it.
Right.
And he's, and so it's stick, it's movement with him. they need a more physical dimension to how they score in the power play. Is because the rest of it isn't hot right now. Sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's not. When it's not, you got to do something else.
I agree. All right, tweet of the week, and I think you're gonna like this one, Mick. I kind of answered it that last week a little bit, so this one is all you. You're gonna get to take the floor with this one, but I think it's right in your wheelhouse. Mac the Fan 02 says, I enjoy your podcast, would be interested in hearing from you and your guests where Bergeron and Marchand rank among all-time line mates. Figure
Woo!
Gretzky, Curry, Trottier, Bossy, and Lemieux Yager are ahead in cups and points. Did Kane play regularly with Taves? Thanks. So there you go, Mick.
Yeah, people complain about Monty shuffling the deck. Hugh was unbelievable.
Yes.
I mean, I don't think the Blackhawks, I would try to chart them knowing that they were at the end of the line if the Bruins made it. And I would watch the first 10 minutes of their game and I'd be on page 3 trying to figure out what their lines are. You know? So yeah, boy, I mean, yeah, I'm a bit of a reformed ranker, but yeah, they belong in the pantheon of the greats.
I think so.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah,
think so.
I think they do. I mean, when I think about the great two-man, yeah, I guess when as the Gretzky Curry come along and they usher in the era where it's more about two guys and an interchangeable third rather than the magical three.
Right.
And so yeah, they're definitely yeah, and it's not so much about comparing numbers and statistics because you're not going to compare modern scoring to 80s scoring with not just those guys, but any guys.
Yep.
But yeah, and then I think of the big moments and how they've come together. Game 7 in Vancouver, Game 7 against Toronto. It wasn't just what you can algorithm out of them. It's what they did to show up when it mattered. I thought that they were all-time great, and the longevity that they've managed in our era to have for so long. Said, Bergie, take care of this guy. You know, make him into an NHL player for us. And the last few years, Marshy was the driver. Bergeron was like the big brother watching his little brothers run around the rink while he, on their skates while he was in his boots and just sort of like, I think I'll go here. I think I'll go there. And just, he just did whatever he needed to do to facilitate them, whatever that was. It just, the relationship on ice and hockey morphed, as I'm sure their friendship did. So it was a thrill to be part of that, to watch it all evolve for a dozen years here. Incredible.
And I think, like all good duos, like all good partnerships, and it was funny when I asked Patrice about that yesterday, just like what he thinks about, all the stuff that he's accomplished on his own and the things that he did in his career, that he's recognized for. Like, how does he feel if, because I think inevitably when people talk about Patrice Bergeron, they're going to talk about Brad Marchand, and vice versa. When they talk about Brad Marchand, they're going to talk about Patrice Bergeron, and just sort of being thought as a duo together. In most instances, you're probably going to be talked about in that respect. And he said, I'm honored and it's a privilege and I love it. And he said, I hope people think of us, when they think of us, they think of us as a duo together, and they think of like one with the other. And
yeah,
I think that's part of what made them special is that kind of mentality, and how happy and privileged and lucky they knew they were to be playing with each other for as long as they did. And also, like any good duo, like any good partnership, they were bringing different things to the table, and I think their different strengths and weaknesses brought out the best in the other one. I think Brad Marchand sometimes brought Patrice Bergeron out of a little bit of an introverted shell sometimes, and he brought a little bit more of sort of a carefree attitude, to what they were doing. And I think Marchand and Bergeron definitely brought a little more discipline, a little more maturity, like all of that stuff out of Marchand, and a little more control to his game at times when he needed it. and a little more poise at certain points, and all of that stuff. And I think they're very different personalities, but they both were good people, obviously good players, and had a strong desire to be great and be as good as they could be and to win and to be good team people. So like all of that stuff together turned them into this great partnership that I think is the best duo certainly in Bruins history. And I think will rank up there with now. Do they have as many cups as those other guys that I mentioned? The Gretzky, Curry, Trottier, Bossy, Lemieux, Yager? No, they don't. They went to 3 Stanley Cup Finals. They won once. I think if they had managed to win in 2019, we're probably talking about them like very close to all of those other pairings, and I think they might be like a half.
So
step
one dud of a
above.
hockey game.
What's that?
One dud of a hockey game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but it's a big one. When it's Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, that's not when you want to have a dud, right?
No, you don't. On the other hand,
So, like legacy wise,
all the history unfolds the way it does, and
yeah.
the fine lines are what they are.
So, I mean, legacy wise, I think that's always going to be there when you talk about them. Is it you wish they could have won one more together when they were all together as a
to
group.
solidify their place in history. I think of last year way more than 19. I didn't think they were ever going to get near that cup. And so the fact that they made it as far as they did, it was just incredible.
You didn't, but like as it was going on and you saw how wide open things were after the first round that season when all the big dogs were out, you're like, it's right
and
there.
The authority with which they dispensed of the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah.
that was incredible the way they were checking them up and down the ice in the third period of that game to sweep that series. They looked, I mean, you know what really kills me? The next year, COVID shutting down the league, and the Bruins had the President's Trophy wrapped up in March, early March, and the league's got another month to go, and the Bruins are a lock. And what a response season by them. And it'll always annoy me that the NHL decided, well, the players are probably complicit too, because it meant revenue and it means 50%, and it means, we get the league back going. But to call that the Stanley Cup for that season, it was as long a gap as a full off season, if not more. And the Bruins, there was no way they were getting near the cup that August, September. There's no chance that they were going to be in that tournament with any real presence. And
absolutely. I agree. But that was the Tampa Bay, right? They ended up, that was one of the ones they took advantage of. So like,
yeah, they did. And, and Dallas kind of announced themselves as a contender at that point too. But again, it's freaking beach hockey, and their bubble. It's beach bubble blanket bingo. It's in calling that the Stanley Cup is just as embarrassing for the sport, in my opinion.
Yep, they were doing what they had to do to survive and get through the times, but
people complain about Kucherov and long-term injury reserve. I didn't have any problem with what Tampa, and I still think even though he led the 21 playoffs in scoring, the Lightning going to win that cup anyway. They were just the best team. Nobody was close.
Yeah, I agree. Regardless of the circumstances, I think they were going to win. All right, Mick, thank you very much. Appreciate you joining us. I think we will end on Bergeron Marchand being one of the best duos in NHL history.
Yeah, right. I'm not going to put a number to it, but they belong in that conversation. And they had the big moments, and their longevity was there. It was just what a partnership. Who knew that it would last as long as it did?
Yeah, and they both should be Hall of Famers at the end of the day too. And I think that's a no-doubter once
Agreed.
Brad is done with his career. Mick, thank you very much for joining us. Let's thank our sponsors, FanDuel Sportsbook. The Super Bowl is over. The Chiefs have won. I was concerned for the health and well-being of Andy Reid when Kelsey came over and almost knocked him on his butt there on the sidelines. But like, it was fun to watch, but it's over. But there's still plenty of things you can get involved with at FanDuel Sportsbook now. NBA and NHL, plenty of things to wager on. Now that the Super Bowl's in the rearview mirror. So why don't you go to FanDuel, and they have so many ways for you to keep the season going with W's. New customers join today, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. That's $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/Boston to sign up. That's the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS network, FanDuel.com/Boston. factormeals.com/Boston. And let's also thank Factor Meals, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit. Delicious meals ready in 2 minutes. Elevate eating at home with their new upscale surf and surf meal options. Roasted garlic, filet mignon, and shrimp, and Cajun spice shrimp and salmon. How does that sound, Mick?
I'm seriously getting hungry. I'm not making this up.
See, there you go. Factor Meals did it to you again. Head to factormeals.com/Haggs50 and use code Haggs50 to get 50% off your first box. Mick Colageo, thank you very much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Everybody out there, thank you for listening. We'll see you at the rink.